When you're thinking, you're actually listening. But have you ever stopped to ask, who or what are you listening to? Is it truly your own voice or something deeper, something hidden, whispering both truths and illusions at once? That endless stream of thoughts in your mind, doubting, analyzing, replaying the past, and predicting futures that never come. Where does it come from? And more importantly, why does it seem to hold so much power over you? Here's something most people never realize. You are not your thoughts. You are not the voice speaking in your mind. You are the awareness hearing it. Yet most people go through life trapped in their heads, entangled in the stories their minds create, mistaking them for reality. But what if you could step back? What if you could break free from this relentless mental noise and live with clarity, peace, and limitless energy? What if the limits you feel weren't real, but just thoughts you've been believing in for too long? Your mind loves to keep you busy, thinking, planning, regretting, anticipating. And while you're caught up in its web, life is unfolding right in front of you, moment by moment. But you're missing it. The stillness, the beauty, the presence, it all gets lost in the noise of a mind that refuses to rest. In this journey, you'll learn how to quiet the storm, step beyond the constant mental chatter, and reconnect with the part of you that exists beyond thoughts, beyond emotions, beyond the illusion of control. So take a deep breath. Just for now, let go of everything else. Let this moment be the doorway to a new understanding, a rediscovery of who you truly are. Because here's the truth. That voice in your head is not you, and once you grasp this, you'll never experience your thoughts or your life the same way again. 1. You are not your thoughts. The voice in your head never shuts up. It comments on everything. What you should have said, what might go wrong, what others think of you. But here's the truth. If you can hear that voice, then you aren't it. You are the awareness behind it. Imagine sitting on a park bench, watching people walk by. Some look interesting, some don't, but you don't follow them. That's how you should treat your thoughts. Watch them, but don't chase them. Most people believe their thoughts define them. If the mind says, "I'm not good enough," they accept it as fact. But thoughts are just programmed patterns shaped by past experiences and society's expectations. They aren't reality. A man who grew up hearing he was bad with money might still believe it, even after building a successful business. If he saw those thoughts as mere echoes of the past, they'd lose their power. That's the first step to real freedom, separating who you are from the noise in your head. Try an experiment. For the next minute, observe your thoughts without engaging with them. Just watch as they come and go. At first, it'll feel strange because the mind wants to pull you in. But if you stay still, something interesting happens. You notice the gap between thoughts, a silence where your real self exists. This is awareness. The more you practice, the more you see that the mental chatter is just background noise, not the core of who you are. Once you recognize you are not your thoughts, a question arises. If you're the observer, then why does the mind constantly try to take control? 2. The mind's illusion of control. The mind loves control. It feeds on certainty, plans, and predictions. It constantly plays out scenarios, trying to prepare for every possible outcome. But here's the paradox. The more it tries to control, the more chaotic things feel. Ever had a sleepless night replaying a conversation, trying to fix something that already happened? That's the mind's illusion at work. It convinces you that thinking more will solve everything when, in reality, it just keeps you spinning in circles. People often mistake overthinking for intelligence, but they're not the same. Smart decisions don't come from exhausting every possible angle. They come from clarity. Imagine a professional fighter. If he hesitated, analyzing every possible move his opponent might make, he'd get knocked out before he even threw a punch. True power comes from trust in his training, instincts, and ability to respond in the moment. The same applies to life. The more you trust yourself, the less you need to control everything. Look at nature. Birds don't stress about where their next meal will come from, yet they find it. Rivers don't panic about reaching the ocean, they just flow. But humans? We try to micromanage every detail, fearing the unknown. The problem is, life doesn't work that way. No amount of worrying has ever changed the future, just like no amount of regret has ever changed the past. The mind clings to control because it's afraid of uncertainty, but resisting the unpredictable only creates suffering. So what happens when you loosen your grip? You start seeing the patterns of your mind for what they are, just habits, not reality. And once you see through the illusion, a new question emerges. If control is an illusion, then how do you break free from the mental loops that keep you stuck? 3. Breaking free from mental chatter. You don't have to silence your thoughts to be free, you just have to stop being their puppet. The mind will always produce thoughts. That's its job. The problem is, most people don't question them. A thought appears and they react. I'm not good enough. Boom, self-doubt. This is going to be a disaster. Boom, anxiety. But what if you didn't react? What if you just watched your thoughts like background noise on a radio? That's where real freedom begins. Think of thoughts like pop-up ads on a website. You don't have to click on them. Some might be tempting, but most are just distractions. If you've ever meditated, you know how this works. Thoughts come, thoughts go, and you just sit there, untouched. And guess what? The less attention you give them, the weaker they become. Detaching from thoughts isn't about forcing silence. It's about choosing not to engage with every mental notification your brain sends you. Here's a practical exercise. The next time your mind spirals into negativity, say, "Oh, there's that thought again," and do nothing. No analyzing, no debating, just observe. You'll notice something interesting. Thoughts only have power when you argue with them. The moment you stop treating them like absolute truths, they lose their grip. Imagine treating a nagging thought like an annoying neighbor who won't stop talking. Smile, nod, and move on. When you break free from mental chatter, life becomes lighter. The mind stops being a battlefield, and you realize that thoughts are just passing visitors. But if they're just visitors, then what are they moving through? What is the space that remains when thoughts come and go? 4. Thoughts are like passing clouds. Thoughts come and go, but they don't define you. They drift through your mind like clouds in the sky, sometimes light and fluffy, sometimes dark and stormy. But no matter how intense the clouds get, the sky remains untouched. That's you. You are not the passing weather. You are the vast space that holds it all. The mistake people make is believing that every thought is personal, that it means something about who they are. But if a negative thought arises, does that suddenly change your true nature? Of course not. Think about it. Have you ever had a ridiculous thought that made no sense? Maybe you imagined saying something absurd in a serious situation, or randomly pictured yourself doing something completely out of character. Did that thought define you? No, it was just a blip on the radar, here 1 second and gone the next. Yet when the mind throws out a thought like, "I'm not good enough," or "I always fail," people grab onto it as if it's written in stone. But it's just another cloud passing through. Here's something practical. The next time a troubling thought appears, instead of fighting it, say, "Oh, there's another cloud." Visualize it drifting across the sky, slowly fading away. The moment you stop identifying with it, its power weakens. And just like watching clouds, you don't have to rush the process. Some will pass quickly, others will linger, but none of them stay forever. Your job isn't to clear the sky. It's to remember that the sky was never the clouds to begin with. And if thoughts are just passing clouds, then what about emotions? If thoughts don't define you, does that mean emotions don't either? 5. Emotions are energy. Let them move. Emotions aren't the problem. Holding on to them is. Most people either suppress their emotions or let them take over completely. Neither approach works. Suppressing them is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes effort, and eventually it pops back up. Getting consumed by them, on the other hand, is like being caught in a storm without shelter. But emotions are just energy, meant to move through you, not get stuck inside you. Ever felt anger bubbling up but forced yourself to stay calm? That energy didn't disappear, it just got buried. Maybe later you snapped at someone over something small, not realizing the real cause. That's what happens when emotions don't get processed. They don't leave, they pile up. Instead of resisting, try this. When a strong emotion arises, pause, acknowledge it, breathe into it, let it be felt. Most emotions only last about 90 seconds if you don't feed them with stories. Think of children. They cry, scream, then 5 minutes later they're laughing. They let emotions move. Adults, on the other hand, store pain like collectors of old junk. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with every unprocessed emotion from the past decade. Exhausting, right? Releasing emotions isn't about ignoring them, it's about letting them complete their cycle. Go for a run, scream into a pillow, write it out. Whatever helps the energy flow. Because here's the real issue. It's not the emotion itself that causes suffering, it's the refusal to let it go. And if emotions are meant to move, then why do people keep replaying pain like a broken record? 6. The trap of holding on. Most suffering doesn't come from what happened, it comes from reliving it. The event itself is over, but the mind clings to it, playing it back like a scene from a movie stuck on repeat. Someone hurt you, betrayed you, embarrassed you, and instead of letting it pass, you carry it everywhere. But here's the truth. The only reason the pain still exists is because you haven't put it down. It's like holding a hot coal and blaming the burn on the fire. Think about it. Have you ever been mad at someone for years, only to realize they moved on long ago? They're living their life, laughing, enjoying themselves, while you're still carrying the weight of what they did. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It only hurts you. And it's not just about others. People hold on to guilt, regret, and shame the same way, punishing themselves for mistakes that can't be undone. Here's something to try. Take a moment to name what you've been holding on to. Be specific. Then ask yourself, what do I gain by keeping this? Most people realize the answer is nothing. The mind tricks you into thinking that holding on to pain protects you from getting hurt again. But all it really does is keep you trapped. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or approving. It means freeing yourself from the weight of something that no longer serves you. But here's the catch. Most people struggle to let go because they think control equals safety. If they don't hold on, they feel like they'll lose control completely. But is control really what keeps you safe, or is it just another illusion? 7. The illusion of control creates resistance. Control feels safe, but it's a trap. The mind convinces you that if you plan enough, worry enough, or analyze enough, you can prevent bad things from happening. But life doesn't work that way. No matter how much you try to control everything, the unexpected still happens. And when life doesn't go according to plan, resistance kicks in. Anger, frustration, stress. But what if the problem isn't life itself, but your refusal to accept what is? Imagine trying to stop ocean waves with your hands. You push, struggle, fight against them, but the waves keep coming. That's what resisting reality looks like. The more you fight, the more exhausted you become. Yet if you step back and float, the waves carry you effortlessly. The same applies to life. You can't control the waves, but you can control whether you drown in resistance or flow with what comes. A great example is traffic. You can yell, curse, grip the steering wheel, but the traffic doesn't care. It's still there. The only thing that changes is your stress level. Now, apply that to everything else: relationships, finances, health. The more you resist what's happening, the harder life feels. Real power comes not from forcing things, but from adapting, adjusting, and allowing life to unfold. And here's where it gets interesting. If letting go of control brings peace, then does surrender mean weakness, or is it actually the greatest strength of all? 8. Surrender as the ultimate strength. Surrender isn't giving up, it's stepping into real power. Most people think surrender means weakness, like letting life walk all over you, but true surrender is the opposite. It means you trust life enough to stop forcing things, to stop gripping so tightly to outcomes. It's like unclenching your fists after holding onto something for too long. The tension releases, and suddenly there's space for something new. Think about a time you desperately wanted something, a relationship, a job, a specific outcome, but the harder you tried, the more it slipped away. Then, the moment you stopped obsessing, things either worked out on their own or you realized you didn't need them in the first place. That's the power of surrender. When you stop forcing, life flows naturally. It doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means you act without attachment to the result. Here's something practical. Whenever you catch yourself feeling frustrated about something outside your control, pause. Take a deep breath and mentally say, I release my grip on this. Physically relax your shoulders, your hands, your jaw. The body holds onto resistance just as much as the mind. The more you practice this, the more you realize that surrender isn't about losing. It's about opening yourself to what life is trying to bring you. And when you stop resisting, something incredible happens. You start living with an open heart. But what does that really mean? And why do so many people fear it? 9. Living with an open heart. An open heart sees life as it is, not as fear paints it. But most people build walls made of past wounds, disappointments, and worst-case scenarios. They think these walls protect them, but all they really do is block joy, love, and new experiences. Living with an open heart doesn't mean being naive. It means having the courage to fully experience life without letting fear dictate every move. Think about trust. Maybe someone betrayed you, and now you assume everyone will. So you close off, thinking it's safer that way. But what's really happening? You're reliving the past over and over, punishing yourself for someone else's action. The truth is, protecting yourself from pain also blocks you from happiness. You can't selectively numb emotions. If you shut out pain, you also shut out joy. Try this. The next time you feel yourself shutting down, whether it's avoiding an opportunity, rejecting a compliment, or dismissing a connection, pause. Ask yourself, am I acting from fear or trust? Living open-hearted doesn't mean ignoring red flags. It means making choices from awareness, not wounds. It means understanding that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's what makes life meaningful. And here's where it gets real. When your heart is open, you're fully present. You stop missing life because you're too busy protecting yourself from it. But if presence is the key to true living, then why do so many people struggle to stay in the now? 10. The power of presence. Life is happening right now, but most people are stuck somewhere else. They're replaying the past, worrying about the future, or lost in thought. Meanwhile, the present moment, the only place life actually exists, goes unnoticed. Presence isn't about forcing yourself to be mindful. It's about realizing that every time you drift into overthinking, you're missing the one thing that's real, now. Ever driven somewhere and realized you barely remember the trip? That's what living on autopilot looks like. The body moves, but the mind is elsewhere. The same thing happens in conversations, meals, even in moments of joy. People are physically there but mentally checked out. The antidote? Bring your attention back to simple things. Feel your breath, notice sensations in your body, truly listen when someone speaks. Presence isn't complicated, it just requires awareness. A simple practice. Whenever you catch yourself lost in thought, pause and name 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 you can taste. It instantly anchors you in the now. Meditation helps too, but presence isn't just about sitting still. It's about fully engaging with whatever you're doing, whether it's drinking coffee or having a conversation. The more present you are, the richer life becomes. And when you master presence, something profound happens. You realize that freedom isn't about escaping anything, it's about mastering your inner world. But what does true freedom really look like? 11. True freedom is an inner state. Freedom isn't about money, location, or a problem-free life. It's about mastering your inner world. Most people think they'll be free when they have fewer responsibilities, more control, or the perfect circumstances. But that's an illusion. Real freedom isn't found in external conditions. It's found in the ability to remain unshaken no matter what happens. When you stop being controlled by thoughts, emotions, and the need for control, you become untouchable. Think of a prisoner who finds peace within himself while locked in a cell, versus a millionaire who has everything yet still feels trapped by anxiety and fear. Who's truly free? Freedom isn't about escaping life's difficulties. It's about facing them without losing yourself. When you detach from mental noise, let go of emotional baggage, surrender control, and live in the present, you stop reacting to life and start creating it. A simple way to test your freedom. The next time something unexpected happens, a delay, a rude comment, a financial setback, watch your reaction. Do you spiral into frustration, or do you take a breath and adapt? Freedom isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's about responding to life from a place of clarity instead of fear. The more you master this, the less life controls you. And here's the truth. When you realize that freedom has always been an inside job, everything shifts. But what if the very act of thinking is what's keeping most people from seeing it? If you want to elevate your vibrations and manifest with more ease, I have prepared something special for you. Click the link in the first pinned comment and join us in the journey of awakening your inner mage.